Hi Floppycatters! I wanted to do a quick video today about raw food. As you guys know, Charlie and Trig were recently transitioned to raw. This has been a long-term goal of mine. I like the fact that he's rubbing his mouth on this bag right now. It just blows my mind if I really think about it. So I'm primarily feeding them right now Fetching Foods. It's a human-grade food made for pets. All of the meat is ethically sourced. All of their diets, all their cat diets are complete diets. They also make custom meals. Like if you have a cat with kidney disease or something like that, they'll do that. This one has no bone in it. He uses egg shell instead for the calcium. He being the owner of Fetching Foods. I know, are you hungry? Like even the fact that he's begging for food is just nuts. So I wanted to show you too what some of your other options are, and this is where I started. I started with Primal Pronto and Small Batch. So these are both commercial grade frozen raw. So I bought these at local stores. This one I had a special order. They carried Small Batch turkey and chicken, but I had a special order rabbit. We're on specific proteins right now, and I couldn't, they can't eat chicken and turkey because we're trying to clear their systems of it. We being Pam of Perfectly Holistic, who has been guiding me and helping me through this whole thing. So these little primal nuggets are frozen raw food, and they have a whole bunch of ingredients. You can pause the video if you want to read those. And then Small Batch, they're like little pucks. I was gonna say nuggets, but they're like little pucks, as you can see. So they're pretty easy to pull out of the bag and just de-thaw. And then their ingredients are here if you want to pause and do that. And then Primal, who makes this Primal Pronto, this was special order too for me from a local dog store here that carries a lot of Primal. They were able to order the Primal cat food for me. And then these Primal freeze-dried nuggets, I might be mistaken here, but all Primal freeze-dried nuggets also come in frozen raw. So I had Primal rabbit, and the nuggets look exactly the same as this, but instead of being freeze-dried, which means that they're dry, the nuggets are more like this, you know, frozen solid. So what's nice about that, these can be used easily as toppers on their food. I actually break them into fours, something like that. And then I will sprinkle it on top of, this is their Fetching Foods, this is rabbit, this is wild boar. I put half wild boar and half rabbit in their bowls. And then I add either bone broth from Green Juju, the bison one, or water on top. Let me show you what I do. Step number one is this little handy weight scale. I put the bowl on there and then I clear it. Then I take the bowl off, portion out the right amount. I want about 2 ounces, so I need to portion out a little bit more, but I just pull it out of the bag. This is our nighttime feeding, and I shoot for 2 ounces on the nighttime feeding because I leave it out. Well, that's pretty close. That will work. Then this is the Green Juju bison broth. I just kind of eye it now, but I heat it up. I don't let it boil or anything. I just heat it up so that it's kind of warm enough that it's gonna bring out the aromas in the food itself, because you want their, mouths to be salivating and, really want the food. Those are all tips that I learned from Troy, who owns Fetching Foods. He has that on his website. So I mix the 2 proteins. You can do 1 protein. I want them having lots of different proteins, actually. Every meal, they pretty much have 2 different proteins. So once that is mixed, then I add our Primal Nugget Toppers, which is Charlie's absolute favorite. Like, he can't say no to it. So then I smash it down a little bit with the fork. So it's still kind of dry. And freeze-dried raw is great for toppers, but something to keep in mind is even though it's raw food and 10 times better than kibble, it's still dry. So it's not a good option unless it's like reconstituted for kitties. That's why I add the bone broth too, because it will help reconstitute the freeze-dried in their tummies so that their kidneys aren't processing dry food, which is what we want to avoid, especially with the older guys. Nighttime feeding is upstairs. Trig's actually in the basement. I don't know if he knows that we are eating right now. But I leave these out all night. So what they don't finish is finished by morning. Another reader on the site who's been feeding her cats raw for like 25 years told me that it was totally fine to leave it out. This allows me to sleep overnight. So I'm fine doing that. You can see there's little bits and pieces where I didn't clean it off from last night, which I probably should do. So there you have it. Those are the 4 options of raw that I have tried on my cats that have worked. The one that isn't really pictured is the fresh frozen one of the primal nuggets. But you can see from the color of this is the rabbit, and then there's, you know, the wild boar, which looks more like beef or venison, very red and colorful in flavor. This is what I want my cats to eat, because this to me has all of the stuff that they should be eating. These are okay and they're fine. I don't have any issues with them. I just like the color of this one. And this one doesn't have like kale and stuff like that that's added to the small batch and the primal. Right now, I'm not allowed to feed pork to Trig, and I could feed these rabbit ones, which I might end up doing. I might end up, you know, slowly integrating these little pucks into everything. But the purpose of this video was just to show you how I went about it. I learned a pretty cool trick last night. Someone was telling, or it was Julie Ann Lee of Adored Beast Apothecary was saying to take kibble. If you're trying to transition your cat, you can take freeze-dried food or like freeze-dried, you know, chicken or turkey treats or something like that from Whole Life. Then take your raw food. You could buy nuggets like this, or you could buy it like this and roll them up into little meatballs. But you either food process this until it's a fine powder, or you take a rolling pin and roll it out to make it into a fine powder if you don't have a food processor. And then you take your little meatballs and you roll them in the freeze-dried powder so that, you know, they want to eat it because of the freeze-dried on the outside. And then the freeze-dried is completely around the outside, or the kibble dust is completely around the outside. So they kind of have no choice but to like cut it and chomp in and see what's inside. So that's an option if you're looking to transition. I use Pam of Perfectly Holistic, and then read all the FAQs on Fetching Foods website about how to transition and how to introduce, and my cats were transitioned in 2 weeks, which I never thought would be possible. This is another night, of course, from when we started the video. I'm using bison bone broth from Green Juju. I put a little healthy gut digestive enzymes from Adored Beast Apothecary tonight in it. And then we have partridge complete meal from Fetching Foods and premium wild boar complete meal. I get about an ounce of each. And then I mix them in, mix in the digestive enzymes. That's one nice thing about working with Pam of Perfectly Holistic is now my kitties, I don't have to syringe it. I can just add it to the food because they're ready for that. And then I will probably start adding this as well. This is gut support for pets from Ion and Intelligence of Nature. I'll link to it, but this helps with leaky gut. If you have a dog or cat with allergies, this is great. It starts healing their gut so that they don't have leaky gut. But you gotta obviously remove the causes of that too. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.